Happy Tuesday. We've got a beautiful MLB slate, some NBA to hit, and of course, some NHL, which means it's time for one of the guys from Puck Time to join us, Andrew McGinnis. I hope your dinner is still patiently waiting when we get done here in about 30 minutes. I apologize. I may or may not have messed up the show schedule this week. Listen, I had too much tequila in Mexico. It is all my fault. I will take the blame. But Andrew's smoke detector was going on, and that is why we were about 45 seconds late to starting the show. So I hope his steak is not eaten by one of his friends or burnt to a crisp. Andrew, welcome in.
Kelly, it's great to be here. Happy to hear you had a great time down south. I know for me, I was away 2 weeks ago, and it's, well, when you get back, you're used to that life you're living. You're sipping tequila, you're having a good time, you're drinking, and it's back to business now. So I'm pumped that baseball season this year, Kel. I mean, obviously, you know I love NHL, but off to a good start with baseball, so it's a great time of year.
Hey, I hate baseball, and we all know that I hate baseball for one very unknown reason. No, we all know why. It's because I'm not any good at handicapping it, and I basically stopped trying. I read Trading Bases. I said, Dave Koken, can you just help me? And he's like, here, kid, let me give you some layups. And then all the other guys that have since joined Wagertalk have been so helpful that I said, I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to try to handicap baseball, but Andrew's going to help us handicap some baseball tonight. Remember, guys, drop your questions in the chat. NHL, NBA, or MLB. Andrew, I know you got a couple packages up at Wagertalk. Let everybody know what you got up, and maybe can you give us one of those little freebie selections?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, right now I've got my first five play of the season going. So I know it's kind of the new age thing. Nobody likes bullpens, but for someone that's a mainly team total guy, a lot of these overs I'm betting. I actually love bullpens because usually they're cashing me tickets. But today, isolated 2 starting pitchers. You guys can get my best bet there. Wagertalk.com, wt.buzz/AM. Best deal for me right now, code AM69 gets people a week. All my plays, $69. So right now, $25 for the one play, $69 for the full week, every single play. So you can grab that. But let's go to the Padres. We're going to take the Padres on the money line here. And, you know, I do kind of have a price tag threshold in the MLB. I don't try not to get too carried away here. And I know it sounds funny leading in with that, and the price is only minus 130. But for the most part, I like to play the pick'em games, the underdogs. And if not, I'm playing a team total over with a favorite. But I'm confident in this spot here for the Padres. They're in bounce back mode so far this regular season and in spring training. They've been a great bounce back team. And also 2 games ago, they blew out their opponent. And then, of course, yesterday they lose. Some teams can't string together back-to-back great performances. But I just love this pitcher mismatch here as well. And I trust the bullpen for the Padres. I have them ranked top 5, so have no problem. Once Darvish leaves the game, I have no problem trusting the bullpen of the Padres. But Mikolas on the mound for the St. Louis Cardinals. He lasted just 4 1/3 innings in his last time out, giving up 5 runs, 2 homers. And I know baseball is one of those sports where it's just natural for players to still be good at an older age. Let's be real here. But I've been approaching MLB a little bit lately like I approach the UFC. Sometimes you just realize father time catches up to pitchers. And that's how I feel about Mikolas. And for him, he's not going to be able to go deep into games. Like I said, he only went 4 1/3 the last time out. We're going to take the Padres on the money line off a tough game yesterday to bounce back and get the job done. Darvish start things off. And again, a great bullpen behind him. We'll back the Padres on minus 130.
Sorry, guys, muted. This isn't my first rodeo, but it is because I had the Wagertalk odds screen open trying to get you guys the best price, and now I look like a jackass. Shocker. Andrew says lay the 130 tonight with the Padres. We do have a question from YouTube. So 4Shot Steve knows the drill. If you have a question for one of our handicappers, you drop it in the chat. Kyle Freeland on the mound again today. Do you think he'll be able to shake off that blunder from the D-backs? Chicago Cubs team total over?
So overall, I mean, taking a look at his numbers, this is the thing, do you want anything to do with the Rockies ever? Probably not. You know, to me, and one thing I've gotten better at, Kelly, and you talk about handicapping baseball, you know, I listened to Wagertalk today with Prez and Teddy, and they have Dave Sherapan on, and they're talking about in certain situations, the betting public can do well sometimes with baseball because it's hard for them to adjust accordingly. It takes some time to adjust prices, right? And the reason why I'm bringing that up, because right now, the Colorado Rockies pitching staff is so horrible, from their starters to their bullpen. It doesn't really matter who's out there. They are so bad that the bookmakers are not going to be able to adjust. Do I think that anything's going to change from the last start? Well, it was absolutely abysmal. I mean, you take a look at the numbers for him in his last start. It was absolutely horrible here. 10 earned runs, 10 hits, 1 home run. And to me, that's what's crazy. When I look at those numbers and only see 1 home run, but 10 earned runs, that's pretty bad. So I'm a huge team totals guy. I have no problem with that with the Cubs. And Kelly, the Rockies are a team that I'm looking to bet against consistently. So if you can get a good price on that team total, I won't talk anybody off it.
You know, I just mentioned I don't do a lot of baseball handicapping, and I don't do a lot of baseball watching unless, of course, I'm there in person. But I just had this conversation with some friends the other night, and they all said, oh, this guy's a total fade. He's laying it with the Red Sox on the road. I'm like, but you guys don't really want any part of the A's, right? Like, it is crazy to me that it is April 2nd, and we already have teams that we're not wanting to bet on. And you're absolutely right. You nailed it. If you said, Kelly, give me 2 baseball teams you do not want to put your hard-earned money on, the Rockies would be 1, and the A's would be 2. Seems a little crazy to be feeling that way this early on.
It really is. But this is the thing, Kelly, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. It's not going to get any better on these prices. So I talked about this with Trig yesterday, right? Like I talked about this with Trig yesterday on our baseball live stream we've been doing together. Like a lot of people, it's like, people throw around the square and the sharp and public and all this. But at the same time, if you're betting the Dodgers every single day, isn't it better to do it out the gate than in August? Because I guarantee you're not going to get a better number in August. It's only going to be worse. So I think what's going to happen is, and it happens all the time, is that you're going to see a lot of people compared to every other sport. A lot of people on our X timelines are going to be having unbelievable seasons. Like, wow, I can't lose in the MLB. It's like, well, no shit, you can't lose because you're betting the obvious pitchers, you're fading the bad pitchers, right? I mean, not to be blunt, but then it starts to catch up to people, right?
What you're saying is they're not being price adverse, right? They're just betting the name of the back of the jersey, laying it no matter what, and eventually that guy's going to get rocked. We see it every single year. High $2 favorite, $3 favorite. They lose outright almost every single day when we start to see May, June, July come around and those big prices start to hit more frequently. Every single day, there is a major underdog that wins the game outright.
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing I will say, I hear a lot of people that, kind of know baseball, I'd say like all the names of players and stuff, similar to how I would say I know hockey, right? And they talk about how they don't care about the starting pitchers anymore. I kind of disagree with that because one thing I will say, like To the Bank says bet numbers, not teams. And I get that. But here's kind of what I would say. I am more likely, what I'm looking to do is bet against bad pitchers and not as much bet on good pitchers. Does that make sense? Like, I don't really care as much who's on the team that I'm betting on. It's more so who's pitching for the team I'm betting against, because those guys don't get any better. Like, Patrick Corbin is like, it's like an international like celebration whenever he's on the mound, and like all of like Gambling X celebrates together and the books can't stop it. And for me, it's not really more so I'm concerned about who's pitching on the other team. It's more so just team total over against that guy.
Hey, makes sense to me. We got a question from Instagram. If you guys are on Instagram or Twitter, feel free to drop in the chat. Do you like the Red Sox run line or the Braves run line better? Andrew, is it too early to be laying the run line? I guess I feel like usually we start to see these run line bettors come later in the season when the prices get higher. I know both of these guys are sizable favorites tonight, but they're not out of what I would say is the complete price range, right?
I'm not a huge run line guy. Like I think I always say, I feel
like if anything, you take the +1.5.
For sure, for sure. But at the same time, like with the +1.5s too, I see so many people that take these +1.5s, and how often are they taking these and they're losing by exactly one? Most of the time, people that bet +1.5s, when they end up winning, they just win outright or they lose. So for me, the team total right now for the Red Sox is set at 4.5 to the overs -110. You know, we take a look at the actual number on the game. You're getting close to -150, and a lot of that has to do with Alex Wood being on the mound for the Oakland A's. But the way I look at it is, Wood's not going to be in there for the full game. This is an opportunity for us to get a Red Sox lineup at a pretty good number. How often this year are we going to get -110 to the over 4.5 against the Oakland A's? Not very often. I think that what I'm more concerned about with this Red Sox team this season, based on my research prior to the season starting, is more so their pitching and not as much their offense. I think their offense is going to be fine. So I guess that might not answer the question which one I like better, but I would say if you're betting the Red Sox, just go ahead and take that team total over to the 4.5. But I can't talk anybody off fading the Oakland A's right now.
Yeah, we've kind of already touched on that just a little bit on teams that you're looking to bet on, teams that you're looking to fade. Okay, Andrew, let's talk about this strategy. I've heard you say it now a couple of times on the show. We all know I'm not a prop better. I save that for Ariel Epstein. And I know that team totals isn't really a prop. Like, we're not talking strikeout props, stuff like that, but It was never a mainstream bet, right? Like, when I first started betting, it was side total. And now we've got team totals within those totals. And I've found that some people have success, as you just mentioned, betting team totals as opposed to, let's say you think Alex Wood, for example, today is going to get rocked, but he's not going to get any run support from his own team. You might like the over, but instead you're looking to bet the over for the Boston Red Sox. Can you kind of, not that game, but overarching, break that down for our audience on why you might want to be looking at team totals over as opposed to game overs?
For sure. Well, I think that a lot of times when anybody is betting an over, a lot of us, if you bet an over in, let's say, a college basketball game, and I'd say, all right, so what's your score prediction? Usually you have a team that you think's going to carry the total. I mean, yeah, sure, both teams contribute. That's awesome for an over. But a lot of times, all of us really in the back of our head, in our hearts, we know there's going to be one team that will have to do it. So I'll give an example. Like, let's say in the NHL, a league I'm comfortable with, love talking about hockey, as everyone knows, of course, Colorado's playing the Columbus Blue Jackets. So the price is really bad on the money line, of course. Run line puck line might not be intriguing, but total's at 6.5. So you look at it and you think to yourself, okay, if I want to bet the over 6.5, the chances are I need a lot of those goals to come from Colorado anyway. So if that game finishes 5-1 and you took the over 6.5, you will not be happy with yourself because the team you thought was going to do all the scoring did their job, but the underdog didn't do it. So I think if someone for this, Red Sox game we were speaking about took the over in the full game and we saw like a 5-0 Red Sox, it would be horrible for them. But then the other side of it, which is my favorite part, is that you simply do not have to worry about the defensive part. You are simply worrying about the offense. So a good example, Kelly, and I hate to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to, for opening day, I had two team totals. Orioles over their team total and the Mariners. Orioles was awesome. They scored like 11 runs. We got that in like the second inning and it felt great. A free play winner, start the season off. But then I had the Mariners at night. Their team total was over 3.5. They lost the game 6-4. Anybody else that bet the Mariners money line, run line, whatever it may be, they lost. But all I was worrying about was them just getting to 4. So some people think the team total is actually overcomplicating things. I look at it quite the opposite. I believe I'm simplifying things with the team total.
That's a very interesting approach, Andrew. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. I do bet baseball. Just because I don't handicap it doesn't mean I'm not betting it. And there's been some few, we'll call them painful losses already this year with some of the overs that I've been betting with some of my buddies. Maybe the team totals are more worth a look. We do have another question from YouTube. Thanks to our producers for man in the chat for me over there. To the bank wants to know Mets, White Sox, Marlins, who gets their first win tonight? Ugh. He didn't even include the Rockies and A's. Like, he's just talking like the bottom of the barrel, not the basement of the barrel.
Yeah. Those teams didn't even get an honorable mention. And I'll say the Marlins. I'll say the Marlins because, again, I mean, we talk about, starting pitching really being a factor. I think that you look at Luzardo being on the mound against Anderson. Anderson didn't look very good last time out. Luzardo, I mean, he's a guy, like, when he's on the mound, you expect him to do his job. Last time out, he gave up 2 runs and it was only 2 hits. So what happened was one guy got on base, next guy after him hit a homer, and he gave up 2 runs. That's all he did wrong the whole entire time he was out there. Bullpen's not bad, but the bullpen's horrible for the Angels. I think the Marlins are probably the most likely team. I don't know what's going on with the Mets right now, but it is awful. It is abysmal. Like right now, and you've been doing this so long, Kelly. You can tell me, like, do teams like the Mets, like, I know the Yankees are more popular, obviously, than the Mets, but like, will the Mets, because they're a more popular franchise than, let's say, the Marlins, will they continue to be more of a price than they deserve to be? You know what I mean? Longer, even if they keep sucking?
I had a gambling group chat member text this morning. I mean, I was up early this morning. So before I had my coffee, who wants to bet the Mets with me to win their division? And I'm like, go back to bed. What is wrong with you? Like, what are we doing? We are like not even a week and a half into baseball and you are already just, I get it. Maybe it's a buy low spot. Do they start to turn it around? Yes, they have a very talented roster. They have a lot of money backing their team. But do I think you pay a premium to bet the Mets? Probably not, even though they do have a larger fan base. Okay. I think the Mets you had the smoke detector going off, and now Reese has decided she's going to bring in her giant avocado and squeak it mid-show.
I know that sound all too well. I know that sound way too well.
That's her awesome. Dad leaves for 20 minutes, and I'm just stuck here as a single mom. I feel you guys. I know how that feels now. Andrew, all jokes aside, let's pivot to NHL. I know we're just a few short days away before the end of the regular season. How are you approaching this last little bit of week? Is it similar to like before the NBA finals? Is it similar to going into All-Star break? Like, what are we looking at here for this last few days?
One thing I'll start with, Kelly, is that it's the old adage. I know I didn't come up with this myself, but must win does not mean will win. And I find that you see a lot of these spots right now. You're really intrigued to go ahead and bet on these teams that need to win, that need to get this win against their divisional rival to make the playoffs. And I'm just finding a lot of times right now, those are teams you kind of want to fade. You don't want to buy into the Cinderella stories. You don't want to buy into that storyline because a team's not going to win, 6 of their last 7 games in the year. So that's been something I've been trying to do, is trying to stay away from the storylines. And in fact, one of the things I've been doing the most is betting matchups where both teams are out of the playoffs. And I'll give one really quick, is actually tonight, Ottawa Senators, Minnesota Wild, 8 p.m. Eastern. This Ottawa Senators team, I don't know what it is, but the second that they realize they're out of contention for the playoffs, they start playing their best hockey. They've looked great. They're getting depth scoring. Their goaltending has been there. And I have to tip my hat to them because obviously they are not impressed with their season they've had. So they're going to battle right until the end. And they're playing tonight against the Minnesota Wild. The Wild have been struggling lately getting goal production. So, there's games tonight like Boston, Nashville. I lean towards the under in that game because it's going to have that playoff feel, I think. But we can also make money on some of these bottom feeding teams as well.
Bottom feeders. Oh boy, I feel like you sound like Adam Trigger. You guys have been doing a show together too long. You love those trash teams that nobody else wants.
He's in the bottom though. Like he's betting like the bottom teams. Like I'm not going that deep into the bottom.
The bottom has fallen off on some of these teams this late into the NHL playoffs. We do have an NHL question from the YouTube chat. SoCal Warrior, who is your sell high and buy low this time of the year? Andrew, I know we've done the show a few times, and I know you've got a handful of bets in the futures market for the NHL. A, how are those going? And B, who are you buying high and selling low in the playoffs?
How are they going? Well, I am really scared for the first round matchups because I've got like 3 or 4 futures and they're all going to be dogs in the first round. So I need like at least 1 or 2 of them to move on, Kelly, for my big Stanley Cup futures. As far as the divisional futures and the player futures go, It's gone really well. But my long shots, well, it's to be determined. It's to be determined. Who is my sell high? Well, talking about selling right now, I say that we might as well continue to sell on this Florida Panthers team. They seem to me like they have been adapting what the Tampa Bay Lightning did for a few years, and they're just cruising on into the playoffs at this point, trying to stay healthy, resting players, make sure everyone's healthy going into the playoffs, and just get there and do their damage, do what they did. Florida could have done a lot better in the Stanley Cup Finals last year if they were healthy. Just the type of viciousness that they play with and the type of hockey that they play, they just got too injured. So right now I'm seeing them kind of start to fiddle off a little bit. So maybe we can make some money betting against them. So I'm kind of selling them. Buy low. I just said one team, and I'll stick with it. Ottawa in the Eastern Conference, there, Atlantic Division. This Ottawa team, you're going to get plus prices on pretty much every game they're involved in. And, don't tell them they're out of the playoffs because they're playing their best hockey they've played all season.
That is pretty unusual, you'd say, right? That all of a sudden in this last little stretch, they're making a run. Like, all right. I find it, I find it very odd. I'll say that much. Usually people just mail it in, cash it out. We got about 7 minutes left. If you have a question, drop it in the chat. We're going to pivot to NBA because this is actually a sport that I can talk about. A couple of games tonight that I thought were rather interesting. A couple of fishy lines. We talked about a couple of those last night with Mark Zeno. Andrew, anything that sticks out to you tonight on the hardwood before I ask you about my favorite game?
I like the over in the Kings and Clippers game here. We got the double-digit in-season revenge spot here, but we do have some travel fatigue as far as the Clippers are concerned. So I kind of stick with the topic that fatigue is a problem defensively. It's not as much of a problem offensively. So overall, I like the over in that game. Miami and New York. Do you have any thoughts on that one? Heat here, same thing, double-digit in-season revenge. To ask you
about. I thought it was really interesting. The Heat, this one seemed very suspect, right? So like one of the things I like to do when I start looking at some of these games is kind of go, what am I missing here? This Knicks team has been on an absolute and utter tear, and now they're just going to gift you 3.5 points with this team that's went over 7 of their last 8, covered 5 of their last 6. I mean, I like this Heat team at home, but they are terrible against the spread at home. 2-6 against the spread at home, and they are a dead on under team most of the time when playing in Miami. I just thought this one was a little fishy. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson is still questionable for tonight. I have not seen anything other than that. A couple of injuries on the Miami front, but everybody appears to be probable going into this one. Andrew, what were your thoughts on the Knicks Heat?
So what I've been doing lately, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but what I've been doing with these teams that are either the more motivated team or the more rested team is just backing the team totals. So looking at Miami right now, again, the last time these teams met, the Knicks got the best of them. So I kind of wanted to look towards the Heat, but not really worry about their defense. You mentioned it, Kelly. This team defensively overall, I've been looking at splits way more than I ever have, like home road. Because I was one of those guys that was like, it doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal anymore like it is in college. But for this Heat team, the way they play defensive basketball is not really the same as how they play it on the road. So I can pull it up. I can't remember what the number is right now. But I think that if you're going to bet the Heat, that's kind of the side I liked. I think I would just look at the team total over.
Yeah, that's the side I like too, Andrew. I like to be a little contrarian. We all know this. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And I think it looks a little too good to take those points with the New York Knicks tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what you were saying.
When these lines stick out to me just a little fishy. We saw it last night with a couple of teams. Mark Zeno and I went over. Somehow he got that Portland team total over, which you just mentioned a team total. I'm like, Mark, please tell me you did not sell that to your clients. He's like, no, I gave it away for free. And then of course it wins, and I'm like, oh, okay, touche. Anything else you'd like to add? You're gonna pull up the Heat number?
I got to see what this number is right now.
Okay,
we're gonna get over 103.5. Over
Okay.
103.5, minus
Shotgun
120.
Mike Shogun, excuse me, Mike says Knicks are great on D. They are hot to their team total unders. Is that the move here? Interesting. That's kind of conflicting what Andrew just said about the Miami Heat.
It is kind of a bounce back. Well, let's take a look at some of the games that, so what did I say the number was here?
103? Is that what you said?
103.
Yeah.
Okay, so 103. So looking at the Knicks' most recent games here, 113 given up to OKC, 130 given up to the Spurs, 101 to my absolutely abysmal Raptors. Then they played Detroit, Brooklyn. I mean, to me, they actually have had kind of a soft schedule recently, Kelly. Now that I go down the list, I think I like this even more. Now that I go
That's
down
interesting.
there.
Okay.
Because when I see 99 points against Detroit or Detroit give up, it's like, who cares? It's Detroit. We need 4 more to get this. Or 5.
That is a good point.
Whatever the math is.
Yeah, that is a very good point. All right. I'll keep an eye on that. Maybe that is the play instead of laying 3.5 with the Heat. I don't know if there's any more questions in the chat. I haven't heard from our producers, but Andrew, anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
I will leave them with this. We're going to take a baseball player prop, and we're going to go over 1.5 bases for Freddie Freeman on the LA Dodgers. Everybody wants to bet the Dodgers right now. We want to try and make some money. Well, I'm all about matchups, and Logan Webb is one of the best pitchers out there for the San Francisco Giants. He's reliable. He's someone that can definitely lead this team, even against a dangerous lineup the Dodgers have. But Freeman, he has his number. And I look at the batter versus pitcher matchups every single day. I'm not a huge prop guy in the MLB market, but every now and then I'll pull up the batter versus hitter analytics, take a look at how a certain guy, and it's in every sport. Some guys play better against certain teams in the NBA. Some players shoot better against certain goalies in the NHL. Well, Freddie Freeman does really well against Webb. We're going to go over 1.5 bases plus 110. Some late night action there for the Dodgers.
Okay. Little bases prop. I like it. Over 1.5 bases, correct? For Freddie Freeman, Los Angeles Dodgers. Got it. This shows you how much I know about baseball, guys. It's that bad. This is my off season, if you will. Okay. As long as we cash tickets, they cash all the same. We all know I'm a complete and utter. Well, we'll leave it at that. Kelly in Vegas on all your social media. Andrew McGinnis at McGinnis Picks on all your social media channels. Andrew, thank you as always. You can catch Andrew on Puck Time with our good friend Carmine. Speaking of Carmine, he's going to join the show on Thursday. Tomorrow, we got Adam Trigger coming up. WT.buzz/AM. AM 69 is Andrew's promo code. You can get all of his bets for this week for just $69.